Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes were the lunchroom legend. Ground beef simmered with onions, tomato sauce or ketchup, a splash of Worcestershire, a little brown sugar, and spices, piled hot on a soft bun. They showed up in the 1930s and spread because they were everything a busy kitchen needed. Cheap, fast, and easy to make in huge batches. Cafeterias loved them. Church basements loved them. Weeknights loved them. The sweet tangy sauce covered a lot of sins and turned a pound of meat into dinner for a crowd. They were also endlessly adaptable. Some cooks added bell peppers, others stirred in garlic, mustard, or chili powder. In some towns, the sauce was looser, in others, thick enough to sit tall. However you made them, Sloppy Joes tasted like practical comfort, messy, friendly, and familiar. So why did they fade? Tastes shifted. Lunch moved toward fresher toppings, leaner proteins, and build-your-own bars. Families cooked less from cans and more from produce aisles. But the idea never really died. Every time a pot of beef hits tomato and brown sugar on a cold night, the old lunchroom classic is right there. Simple, satisfying, and ready to feed everybody. Rice-A-Roni. Rice-A-Roni was the boxed miracle of mid-century kitchens. A mix of rice and thin vermicelli browned in butter, then simmered in broth until fluffy and flavorful. It was born in San Francisco in the late 1950s, when a family of Italian immigrants combined the textures of pasta with the convenience of instant rice. Marketed as the San Francisco treat, it promised homemade flavor in 15 minutes. No measuring, no guessing, just sauté and simmer. American families loved it because it fit the new rhythm of life: faster meals, smaller budgets, and less time in the kitchen. The jingle became unforgettable, and the flavors, chicken, beef, and Spanish, made it feel versatile enough for any table. Rice-A-Roni captured the optimism of the post-war era when modern kitchens and boxed dinners symbolized progress. But as food culture shifted toward fresh grains, low sodium, and whole ingredients, Rice-A-Roni's golden age began to fade. It still sits on supermarket shelves, its red box a nostalgic echo of the time when convenience itself was a taste of the future. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole was the definition of comfort during lean times, the kind of dish that filled bellies without emptying wallets. Born in the mid-20th century, it combined simple pantry staples: canned tuna, egg noodles, peas, and cream of mushroom soup. Everything was mixed together, topped with crushed potato chips or breadcrumbs, and baked until bubbly. It was cheap, filling, and made from ingredients most families already had on hand. During the post-war years and into the Great Depression's memory, it became a household favorite because it stretched every dollar. Advertisements praised it as a one-pan miracle, perfect for busy families. In church cookbooks and small-town kitchens, every household had its own version. Some added celery for crunch, others mixed in cheddar for richness. Over time, as fresh ingredients and global cuisines became more accessible, the humble tuna casserole lost its everyday spot at the dinner table. But for many, the smell of it baking still brings back the warmth of family dinners, school potlucks, and simpler days when love and thrift were baked into every meal. Beef Stroganoff. Beef Stroganoff was once the symbol of elegance on the American dinner table. Creamy, rich, and just exotic enough to impress guests. The dish originated in 19th century Russia, named after the wealthy Stroganoff family. When it crossed over to the United States in the mid-1900s, it found a new identity as the perfect fancy but simple meal. At its core, it was tender strips of beef sautéed with onions and mushrooms, then simmered in a sauce of sour cream and broth. Served over egg noodles or rice, it struck the perfect balance between comfort food and sophistication. By the 1950s and 60s, it was everywhere, from family cookbooks to company dinner parties, seen as a way to turn an ordinary cut of meat into something special. But as the decades rolled on, Beef Stroganoff's creamy heaviness started to feel dated. Lighter, global dishes took over, and convenience foods replaced slow stovetop cooking. Still, in every kitchen where someone melts butter, browns beef, and stirs in sour cream, that trace of mid-century glamour lives on. Stroganoff isn't just a recipe, it's a taste of when home cooking was both practical and proud. Chicken a la king. Chicken a la king was elegance served on a plate, a creamy savory dish that turned leftover chicken into something fit for company. It first appeared in the early 20th century, though its exact origin remains a bit of a mystery. Some say it was created by a hotel chef named William King in Philadelphia. Others credit a cook at New York's Brighton Beach Hotel. Either way, it quickly became a star of dining rooms and banquet halls across America. The recipe was simple but indulgent. Diced chicken, mushrooms, pimentos, and green peppers all simmered in a rich cream sauce. It was served over toast points, puff pastry, rice, or noodles, whatever the occasion called for. The dish became especially popular in the 1950s and 60s when fancy home cooking was all about sauces and presentation. For many families, it was the ultimate way to make yesterday's roast chicken feel brand new. But as dining trends shifted toward lighter meals and less creamy sauces, chicken a la king slowly disappeared from menus. Today, it survives in vintage cookbooks and nostalgic food blogs, a creamy reminder of when dinner was an occasion and resourcefulness met refinement on every plate. Liver and onions. Liver and onions was once a proud staple of American kitchens, a dish built on nutrition, thrift, and tradition. At a time when every part of an animal was used, liver was prized for being inexpensive yet packed with iron and vitamins. The recipe was straightforward: slices of beef liver soaked in milk to soften the flavor, dredged lightly in flour, and fried in butter until golden brown. Then came the onions, slow-cooked until sweet and caramelized, layered on top to balance the liver's earthy richness. For decades, this dish was seen as the mark of a hearty, home-cooked meal. It appeared regularly in diners and family homes, especially in regions tied to the meatpacking industry like the Midwest. Parents encouraged their children to eat it for strength, and doctors praised its health benefits. But as tastes modernized, the strong flavor of liver began to lose its charm. People leaned toward milder meats, and the idea of eating organ cuts faded from everyday cooking. Still, for those who grew up with it, the smell of onions frying in butter can instantly bring back memories of Sunday dinners, hard-working kitchens, and the simple belief that food should both nourish and sustain. Waldorf salad. The Waldorf salad was once the height of sophistication, crisp, fresh, and designed to impress. It first appeared in 1896 at New York City's luxurious Waldorf Astoria Hotel, created by maitre d'hotel Oscar Cherky. Unlike the heavy dishes of the era, this salad was refreshingly simple: chopped apples, celery, and mayonnaise, later enhanced with walnuts for crunch. It became a symbol of refined dining, elegant, modern, and light. Throughout the early and mid-20th century, the Waldorf salad became a go-to for luncheons, parties, and fancy family gatherings. Its appeal lay in its simplicity, just a few ingredients that felt fresh and upscale. As time went on, variations appeared across America. Some added grapes for sweetness, others swapped mayonnaise for yogurt or sour cream. Each twist reflected changing tastes, but kept the salad's original spirit alive. Eventually, though, global flavors and trendier salads took its place. Caesar, Cobb, and kale became the new stars, and the Waldorf faded into memory. Yet, even today, one bite of that crisp apple and creamy dressing feels like stepping back into an era when elegance meant simplicity, and when a salad could carry the name of a grand hotel. Green bean casserole. Few dishes capture American nostalgia quite like green bean casserole. Invented in 1955 by Dorcas Riley at the Campbell Soup Company, it was designed as a quick, affordable way to turn pantry staples into something that looked homemade. The recipe used canned green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and crispy fried onions, three simple ingredients that, when baked together, became an instant classic. It wasn't long before green bean casserole earned its spot at nearly every Thanksgiving table. It was creamy, crunchy, and comforting, the perfect middle ground between convenience and tradition. The dish symbolized the rise of mid-century cooking, when processed foods and family dinners happily coexisted. For many, the smell of it baking in the oven meant the holidays had officially begun. Over time, though, as fresh produce and lighter sides became more popular, the casserole's everyday presence faded. Still, every November it makes its comeback. The same familiar flavor, the same golden topping, reminding everyone why simplicity sometimes tastes like home. Pineapple chicken. Pineapple chicken was the sweet and savory sensation of mid-century America, a dish that reflected the nation's fascination with all things tropical. As Hawaii moved toward statehood in the 1950s, Hawaiian-inspired recipes flooded cookbooks, and pineapple became the exotic fruit of choice. Pineapple chicken brought that tropical flair to the dinner table, mixing chunks of tender chicken with bell peppers and pineapple in a glossy sauce of vinegar, soy, and brown sugar. It was colorful, flavorful, and fun, the kind of meal that made even a rainy day feel sunny. Families loved it because it offered a small taste of vacation without leaving the kitchen. It also fit perfectly into the post-war trend of adventurous, experimental cooking, when canned pineapple and bottled sauces were the gateway to global flavors. But as American tastes matured and people began craving more authentic, less sugary versions of international cuisine, pineapple chicken slowly disappeared from everyday menus. Today, it lingers mostly in church cookbooks and retro recipe blogs, a bright, sticky reminder of when Hawaiian meant family dinners served on pastel plates and bold flavors were something to celebrate. Creamed chipped beef. Creamed chipped beef was the unsung hero of American diners, military mess halls, and modest home kitchens. It was a simple yet filling dish made from thin slices of dried beef cooked in a creamy white sauce, usually poured over toast or biscuits. Its roots trace back to the early 20th century, but it became truly iconic during World War II, when it served as a staple breakfast for soldiers. In the military, it was famously nicknamed SOS, short for stuff on a shingle, a humorous way to describe its messy, hearty appearance. Despite the jokes, it was a dependable meal that delivered salt, fat, and comfort when nothing else was guaranteed. After the war, veterans brought their fondness for it home, turning it into a nostalgic dish for many American families. As tastes evolved and lighter, fresher meals took over. Creamed chipped beef faded from daily menus. But for those who remember it, the creamy sauce, salty beef, and buttery toast still bring back memories of simpler times, when practicality ruled the kitchen and every bite felt like a small piece of home. Pimento cheese. Pimento cheese was once the crown jewel of Southern lunch tables, a bright orange spread that blended grated cheddar, mayonnaise, and diced pimento peppers into something creamy, tangy, and irresistible. It was simple, affordable, and endlessly adaptable. In the early 1900s, as processed cheese and canned pimentos became widely available, this humble mixture took off across the South and soon became known as the caviar of the South. You'd find it everywhere, spread on white bread for quick lunches, stuffed into celery sticks at parties, or slathered on burgers at backyard cookouts. Every family had its own secret version. Some added a dash of hot sauce, others folded in cream cheese, onions, or even jalapenos for extra bite. It was a dish that could be both everyday and special at the same time. As food trends shifted toward artisanal cheeses and fancier spreads, pimento cheese lost some of its spotlight. But in many Southern kitchens, it never truly disappeared. Its comfort in its simplest form, a reminder of lazy afternoons, family picnics, and a time when flavor came not from sophistication, but from heart and tradition. Spam sandwiches. Spam sandwiches were the lunchbox champions of wartime and post-war America, salty, simple, and built to last. Introduced by Hormel Foods in 1937, Spam became a sensation during World War II because it didn't spoil, didn't need refrigeration, and could be shipped anywhere. Soldiers ate it daily, and when they came home, so did their taste for it. Soon, Spam sandwiches were appearing in diners, lunch counters, and family kitchens across the country. The sandwich itself couldn't be easier, a slice or two of fried Spam on bread with mustard or mayonnaise. Some people dressed it up with pickles or cheese, while others kept it plain. It was cheap, filling, and dependable. Everything a working family needed when budgets were tight. In places like Hawaii, Spam became more than a convenience food. It turned into a cultural icon, inspiring dishes like Spam musubi, a sushi-style snack made with rice and seaweed. As decades passed and diets turned toward fresher, less processed foods, Spam's popularity waned. Still, it never disappeared completely. For many Americans, the sizzle of Spam in a frying pan brings back the sound of Sunday mornings, quick lunches, and a time when a can of meat was both a luxury and a lifeline. Pickled beet eggs. Pickled beet eggs were the kind of dish that caught your eye before you even tasted it, glowing a deep magenta from the vinegar and beet juice they soaked in. Originating from Pennsylvania Dutch kitchens, these eggs were both practical and pretty. Hard-boiled eggs were steeped for days in a brine of beets, sugar, vinegar, and spices, transforming them into something sweet, tangy, and vividly colored. They weren't just for show, though. In a time before refrigeration was common, pickling helped preserve food safely for weeks. The bright flavor made them a favorite at church picnics, diners, and potlucks across the Northeast. They often appeared around Easter or festive gatherings, lining tables like edible decorations that tasted as good as they looked. But as home pickling fell out of fashion and grocery shelves filled with ready-made options, pickled beet eggs slowly disappeared from everyday meals. Today, they live on mostly in Amish country and old family recipe cards, reminders of an era when nothing went to waste, and a splash of vinegar could turn the simplest food into something extraordinary. Vienna sausages. Vienna sausages were the tiny canned meats that helped shape America's quick lunches and camping meals for decades. Originally inspired by European sausages, they arrived in the U.S. as a soft, mildly salty, ready-to-eat version that required no refrigeration. After World War II, when convenience became king, Vienna sausages were everywhere, stacked on pantry shelves, tossed into lunchboxes, or stirred into casseroles and stews. For busy families, they were a small miracle. You could open a can, heat them in minutes, and have a hot meal ready to go. They even became popular in the South as part of picnic spreads and quick snacks, often paired with crackers and mustard. The long shelf life made them essential in emergencies, road trips, and military rations. But over time, the same qualities that made them beloved, soft texture, salty flavor, and processed convenience, began to work against them. As people moved toward fresher, less processed meats, Vienna sausages started to fade from the spotlight. Still, for many, the sight of that little blue can is pure nostalgia, a taste of simpler days when lunch came from the pantry and practicality was part of every bite. Deviled ham spread. Deviled ham spread was the spicy, savory staple of American lunch tables long before fancy deli meats came along. It first appeared in the late 1800s, famously popularized by the Underwood Company, whose red devil logo became one of the oldest trademarks in U.S. history. The concept was simple: ground or finely chopped ham mixed with mustard, mayonnaise, and a blend of spices like paprika and cayenne. The result was a zesty paste that could be spread on bread, crackers, or celery, perfect for sandwiches, picnics, or quick snacks. During the early and mid-20th century, deviled ham was prized for its convenience and shelf life. It didn't spoil easily, making it a go-to for workers, travelers, and families looking to stretch leftovers. It carried a little kick of spice that felt fancy without costing much, and it fit right in with the era's love for canned and ready-made foods. But as the decades passed and fresh ingredients took over American kitchens, deviled ham lost its everyday appeal. Its processed texture and strong flavor couldn't compete with the rise of deli counters and homemade spreads. Yet even now, a small can of deviled ham sits quietly in many pantries, a reminder of a time when lunch was fast, flavorful, and made to last. Tomato Surprise. Tomato Surprise was a dish that perfectly captured the creativity and elegance of mid-century America. It appeared on dinner tables and party buffets throughout the 1950s and 1960s, when presentation mattered almost as much as taste. The concept was simple yet striking. Large, firm tomatoes hollowed out and filled with something unexpected inside. The fillings varied from creamy tuna or chicken salad to rice blends or even cold pasta mixes. Served chilled, the contrast of the juicy tomato shell and the rich filling inside made Tomato Surprise both refreshing and eye-catching. It was especially popular at garden parties, church luncheons, and women's clubs, where colorful presentation turned simple ingredients into something special. The name Surprise came from the hidden center. No two were ever quite the same. However, as culinary trends shifted toward simpler, fresher, and more natural presentations, the novelty of Tomato Surprise faded. Diners began to prefer dishes that highlighted ingredients rather than concealing them. What was once considered a showstopper of creativity became a nostalgic symbol of mid-century dining, charming, quirky, and a little bit over the top. Ham and Banana Hollandaise. Ham and Banana Hollandaise might be one of the most puzzling, yet fascinating, dishes to ever emerge from the 1950s kitchen. Picture this: ripe bananas wrapped in thin slices of salty ham, smothered with a rich, buttery hollandaise sauce, then baked until golden. It sounds odd today, but at the time, this sweet and savory creation was considered a modern, adventurous meal that reflected post-war America's love for experimentation and exotic flavor pairings. The recipe appeared in company cookbooks and home magazines, encouraging housewives to impress guests with something new. The mix of tropical fruit, salty meat, and creamy sauce fit right into the decade's fascination with glamorous entertaining. Combining unexpected ingredients wasn't just cooking, it was conversation. But as tastes evolved, dishes like this one lost their charm. The combination of heavy sauce, ham, and banana felt too rich and unconventional for changing palates. What was once a daring dinner party centerpiece slowly became a culinary curiosity, a reminder of an era when creativity sometimes went a little too far. Shrimp Wiggle. Shrimp Wiggle was the creamy comfort food that once graced countless dinner tables, especially in the Northeast. This dish brought together shrimp, sweet peas, and a silky white sauce, all served over toast or noodles. The name Wiggle came from the way the shrimp and peas jiggled in the sauce, giving it a playful personality that made it especially popular with families in the early to mid-20th century. The recipe was simple, but satisfying. Canned or fresh shrimp were simmered in a milk-based sauce, thickened with butter and flour, while peas added a pop of sweetness and color. It was an affordable way to enjoy seafood at home when fresh catches weren't always available. Shrimp Wiggle became a staple of post-war cookbooks and luncheon menus, elegant enough for guests, but easy enough for weeknight dinners. Over time, though, the dish's heavy cream sauce fell out of step with modern tastes. As diners began to prefer lighter and fresher seafood options, Shrimp Wiggle wiggled its way off most menus. Still, for those who remember it, the dish evokes a sense of warmth and nostalgia, a snapshot of an era when comfort came from a can, and a bubbling white sauce could turn any day into a special occasion. Banana Meatloaf. Banana meatloaf was one of those culinary experiments that could only have been born in the mid-20th century, a time when home cooks weren't afraid to mix the unexpected. Imagine the classic American meatloaf, ground beef, breadcrumbs, and eggs, but with mashed bananas folded into the mix. The idea was that the fruit's natural sweetness and moisture would make the meat softer, richer, and stretch further when budgets were tight. It wasn't entirely a gimmick. During the Great Depression and later in the 1950s, thriftiness met innovation in home kitchens. Bananas were inexpensive, readily available, and added a tropical flair to otherwise humble meals. Cookbooks even marketed it as a modern twist on hearty fare, claiming that the balance of sweet and savory flavors made it perfect for family dinners. But as American tastes matured, banana meatloaf's novelty wore off. The idea of fruit in a savory meat dish became too strange for most palates, especially as fresh produce and quality meats became easier to afford. Today, it's remembered as one of those quirky, vintage recipes that make you smile, not because you'd eat it again, but because it reminds us of a time when creativity in the kitchen had no limits. Egg salad in aspic. Egg salad in aspic was a dish that looked more like art than food, a shimmering dome of clear gelatin encasing creamy egg salad, often with decorative vegetables suspended inside. It was the height of sophistication in the 1950s and 1960s, when molded salads were a staple of luncheons, church gatherings, and buffet tables across America. The appeal came from both practicality and presentation. Gelatin kept food fresh longer, especially before refrigeration was widespread, and it allowed hosts to display their cooking skills in style. Inside the wobbly mold, chopped eggs, mayonnaise, mustard, and seasonings were perfectly preserved, while rings of olives or slices of pimento added color through the translucent surface. It was a showpiece, one that reflected mid-century America's obsession with elegance and novelty. However, as dining culture evolved, the fascination with gelatin molds faded fast. By the late 1970s, people began to favor natural, unprocessed foods and straightforward presentations. The glistening aspic, once a symbol of refinement, came to represent an outdated era of over-engineered cooking. Still, egg salad in aspic stands as a fascinating relic, a glimpse into the days when even a simple lunch could be sculpted into something spectacular.